Welcome to Scriptural Snapshot, brought to you by Living Faith Ministries in Kaiser, West Virginia, where we bring the living Word of God into your life. I'm Pastor Gordon Brubaker. We're talking about the spirit of liberty, and Jesus says in Matthew 23, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat, therefore do whatever they tell you to observe, that observe and do, but do not do according to their works, for they say and do not do. For they bind heavy burdens, hard to bear, and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. You know, this is so common in the world today. It's so common in human nature that we're busy telling everybody else how they ought to live, what they ought to do, but we don't practice it for ourselves. And a lot of times what we tell others to do isn't necessarily wrong, but it's hypocritical. But when it gets out of hand, it becomes evil. When it gets to the point of where you will do what I tell you to do simply because I want to tell you what to do, then it's no longer just a right, proper thing that everyone ought to do. It becomes tyranny. It becomes dominion. And Jesus said, we've talked about this, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and those who are great exercise authority over them. Yet it shall not be so among you, but whoever desires to become great among you, let him be your servant. You know, it's time that our leaders show us how to live. Instead of telling us how to live, show us how to live. Live the way that you are telling us to live. You know, that's the only way we're going to learn. Children learn more by watching their parents than they do by what their parents tell them. And if the teaching doesn't line up with the lifestyle, the kids will ignore the teaching, because what you do speaks louder than what you say. This is why so many people say that we're preaching all the time, and you preach by your conduct, you preach by your lifestyle. So, excuse me, but Jesus went on to say in Matthew 23 about the scribes and the Pharisees and the people that sit in positions of authority. And you got to understand, the scribes and the Pharisees were not just religious leaders, they were also political leaders in their day. He said they bind heavy burdens, hard to bear, lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. In other words, we would say it like this today. People love to spend other people's money, but they won't spend their own money for what they want to spend your money on. See, they want to accumulate wealth while they want to distribute your wealth. They want to take your wealth. I remember Walter Williams, he said taxes is just another way of legal stealing. It's legalized theft to pay taxes. Well, I may not totally agree with that, but he's got a point. That more and more we have people in government, well, we'll just have you pay the bill. And what are they doing? They're doing nothing but getting rich politically, physically, financially, as well as strategically wealthy, sitting in the high seats of dominion while you are paying the bill. Now, that's just not right. I think socialism is always interesting, because socialism says we should all share alike. But the leaders of socialism never share in the low standard of living that they produce for everybody else. Look at Russia. Look at Cuba. Look at Venezuela. Those people are not living in poverty like their people are. They're living in wealth. They're living in luxury. They have what they want, what they need. But see, Jesus says you got to watch out for people like that. They're thieves. They're tyrants. And he says we believers in God should not live that way. I want to go on. Instead of, just say this, instead of imposing heavy burdens on others, Jesus said in Matthew 11, now this is a contrast, Matthew 11:28, Jesus said, come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart. And you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. See, Jesus says, come unto me. I will give you rest. All the fretting of the world, all the worry of the world, all the things that go on, we think we live in the worst time ever in the history of the world. No, you don't. I don't care how bad off it is where you are. I don't care what the situation is. It has been that bad or worse in other times of history. But Jesus says, I have come that I will give you rest. In the midst of the turmoil, in the midst of struggle, in the midst of all the upheaval going on in the world, God will give you rest. He won't take from you. He will give you rest. He will give you peace. He will give you the feeling of security, of genuine safety in the Lord. Remember, God is gathering us under his wings to protect us and to deliver us out of temporary evil times. I'm Pastor Gordon Brubaker. God bless you.